Good evening and welcome to the Kent City Council member meeting for February 15th, 2022. If you would all please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Kim, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Ralph.
Here.
Council President Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Moving on, item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes to the agenda, but just want to make sure everybody has the most up-to-date version, which includes an item 9A related to the Naden property.
All right. Thank you. If there are no changes, then a motion would be in order to approve the most updated version of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
The motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is public communications. We have several items under public recognition, as well as community events and public safety report this evening. The first item on the agenda is an appointment to our Human Services Commission, and I am proud to present for Council's approval the appointment of Karina Oskoy-Cazares to our Human Services Commission. She's joining us this evening via Zoom. Good evening, Karina.
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you so much. My name is Karina Oskoy-Cazares, and thank you all for the opportunity. I have served in different roles here in the city of Kent, one of them being my current role as the re-engagement specialist for the Kent School District. So I support all our 42 schools, students and families that are struggling, especially with attendance. So I'm just excited to join you all in this new space and yeah, just thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I am so excited about Karina joining our Human Services Commission, especially given her current capacity with the school district. It's a fabulous way to continue to build that relationship and support our families here in the city of Kent. So Council, it's on the consent calendar for approval for the appointment. So again, thank you so much, Karina, for stepping up and volunteering, and looking forward to working with you closer in this capacity.
Yes, thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is a proclamation for Black History Month. Council President Boyce, would you like to, I would like to present this proclamation. I'm going to read it to you, and then if you want to join us at the podium for a few comments, or do you want to do it here from your seat?
I'll do it from my seat, that's okay.
All right, that's perfect.
Thank you.
All right, the proclamation says, whereas since 1976, every United States president has officially designated the month of February as National Black History Month to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience. And whereas the observance of Black History Month began in 1926 when Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and Minister Jesse Moreland sponsored the first National Negro History Week, which was celebrated the second week in February, and later in the 1960s as a part of the Civil Rights Movement, the observance evolved into Black History Month. And whereas Black History Month serves as a celebration of the accomplishments and contributions of Black Americans throughout the history of our nation, the fullness of African American history and culture, and a time to recognize that across the generations, countless Black Americans have demonstrated profound moral courage and resilience to help shape our nation for the better. And whereas much of the city of Kent's strength and success can be attributed to the diversity of cultures and traditions that are celebrated by residents of this great city, and whereas African Americans have played significant roles and made lasting contributions to our city's history and the history of Washington's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development, while working tirelessly to contribute to every aspect of American society, including business, education, medicine, politics, science, and the arts. And whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to remember the contributions and legacy of those who helped build our nation, advance the cause of civil rights for all Americans, continue to fight against prejudice to secure lives of dignity and opportunity for all of our residents, and to strengthen our families and communities. Now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim February 2022 to be Black History Month in the City of Kent, and encourage all residents to join me in honoring the many contributions made by African Americans to our city, state, nation, and to participate in the many educational opportunities and inspirational events celebrating February 2022 as Black History Month. Council President Boyce, it is my pleasure to present that to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I'm going to make a few comments here. As you said earlier, Black History Month is an annual celebration, and it really look at the achievement that African American had made during that time, and want to find ways to recognize them. So I was just decided to Google a couple names and some of their inventions. There's a lot. You'd be surprised how many inventions that they've been part of. But I want to talk about the ironing board, right? That was Sarah Boone in 1892. Then the traffic light, which, me and Marla, we have a thing with traffic light today, right? So that's Garrett Morgan in 1923. Then you talk about the automatic elevator door. That was Alexander Miles in 1867. Then you have Marie Van Britten Brown, the home security system in 1966. Madam C.J. Walker, the hair straightener. Brenda, we can relate to that, right? Yes, we can. And then George Washington Carver, as the mayor said, peanut butter experience in 1914. And then Charles Richard Drew, blood plasma in the late 1930. And then we have the electric microphone, James E. West in 1964. And the cardiac surgery for the eyes was Patricia Bath. And then I think about from a politic, I can remember Shirley Chisholm. She was the first, how do you pronounce that? Chisholm, thank you. She was the first African-American report that was on the U.S. House of Representatives. And that was a big thing during that time. I was following her and was really inspired by that. So there's a lot of pathway that's been made by African-American, and I want to say thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you. And we have history makers here in the City of Kent sitting up on the dais today. So I want to thank you both for your contributions to the City of Kent.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to the next item, which is community events. Council President, do you have any community events for us this evening?
Well, we got a little bit going on here at the Showware Center here. So the Seattle Thunderbird is playing the Spokane Chief tomorrow. This is February 18th. Tacoma Stars and the Baltimore Blast on Saturday the 19th. And Toby Mac Hit Deep Tour 2022 on February 25th. And the Thunderbird is back in town on the 27th, as well on March 1st. And we have Tacoma Stars playing Ontario Furies on Friday, March the 4th. And we have Awaken Music Festival on Saturday, May 21st. So lots of things going on at the Showware Center and the City of Kent. So you can always go visit the website at www.accessoshowwarecenter.com. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Fincher.
If you visit www.kentwa.gov, you can also get your Spotlight tickets. So there's still a few concerts left for the Spotlight series, and there's great entertainment, so check that out.
All right, and finally, tomorrow evening at Half Lion Public House, we have coffee. It's called Coffee and Conversation with the Mayor, but it's Half Lion Public House at Riverbend Golf Course. So I will, you can choose your beverage, come down and join us at 6 p.m. It's an informal conversation way to connect with each other and talk about things that are happening here in the City of Kent and just share some good time together. So hope to see you tomorrow night at Half Lion down at our golf course. All right, the next item on our agenda is our public safety report, and I see Chief Padilla here and ready to go. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Have tonight's report ready to go. I'll go ahead and get into it. So as promised, the prior report, I wanted to circle back with the year-end results for our homicide stats, and so that's part one of tonight's report. So looking at it, we looked at our homicides this year, and we had, let me go back. We had 14 homicides in 2021, which is up from 8 in 2020. 11 of those 14 cases have been what I'll call completely solved, where a suspect was arrested and murder charges have been filed. That gives us a solve rate for this year so far, because we're not done with the ones that aren't completed, of 85% clearance rate, which is very high. The national average, just kind of for reference, is 51% clearance rate on homicides. So still doing well. If you recall, last year we had almost 100% clearance rate. One of the cases that's outstanding is at the prosecutor's office, and they are contemplating whether or not there's evidence to support a self-defense situation, and so that one may or may not be prosecuted. And the two remaining cases are still under active investigation. We do have leads on them, but we don't have enough information at this point for charges, so they're ongoing at the investigation. Of the 11 of the 14 homicides resulted with the victims dying from gunshot wounds. One homicide was the result of the victim being stabbed, and 2 homicides were done via aggravated assault. Of the 14 homicides, 2 of those were domestic violence related. And so for the 2 unsolved homicides from last year, we are still seeking the public's help. Last week, we had a recent social media blast asking for help on one of the cases. So I want to go ahead and take the opportunity to ask for that help again. And so I'll go through quickly what we're looking at. The first case that we need public assistance and anybody with information to come forward was back on May 16th of 2021. We had a shooting that resulted in a homicide at the Babylon Hookah Bar here on Washington Avenue near the Safeway. It's located at 306 Washington Ave South. On Sunday morning at about 6:30 a.m., a 29-year-old victim, Dante Green, was shot to death in the bathroom of that hookah bar. And a second victim who was trying to break up the altercation that was going on was also shot twice, but fled before we could contact him. So I believe that person's still unknown to us. So anybody has information on that, I'll be giving you the number to call here shortly. The second case that we have under active investigation from last year that we need more information on was a shooting that happened at 420 Alder Lane on the street there. At about 2 a.m., a 28-year-old, this was back on June 20th, I would say. 2 a.m., a 28-year-old victim, Antoine Nelson, was found in his vehicle along the side of the street, and he'd been shot in the head. He was alive and asking for help. Good bystanders picked him up, took him to the hospital, but unfortunately he died later at the hospital. So we are still looking for information related to that incident. So anyone that wants to help and provide information, they can do so anonymously. We ask that they call our TIPS line at 253-865-5808, and that line is also available, if you didn't remember it, 253-856. I wrote it down here, 856-5808. All right. Call that. You can remain anonymous, and our detectives check it daily for tips. And we have had tips called in that have helped us out. Thanks for making sure I got the number right. I'll pause right there for any questions on our homicide from last year.
Any questions for the chief? All right, not seeing any.
Okay. I also wanted to take time, this kind of dovetails in, as many of you probably are aware, last January, the King County Prosecutor's Office released their Firearms Violence Report, also known as the Shots Fired report. So I want to go through that and give our Kent residents, as well as the council, a look at what the regional picture is in terms of this issue. The full report can be found at that address there on the slide, or just go to their website. It's pretty easy. They have a pretty good website. It's easy to find the data there. So here are the totals for 2021 in King County. According to the report, there were the number of fatal shootings, which involved 88 people, was up 64% over the 4-year average going back to 2000. I guess that's 5 years, 2017. This is what the report says. While the number of non-fatal, so people that were shot but did not die from injuries, was up 54% for that same average. There were 17 more fatal shooting victims this last year, and 102 non-fatal victims more than 2020. This slide here is the racial breakdown of the victims, and if you look at that there, the outer ring represents what the normal census makeup is by race in our area. The inner ring represents the percentage by race of shooting victims. This particular slide confirms many years of consistent data that indicates that our BIPOC community members are victims of gun violence more than their white counterparts, and particularly so with the Black community representing 48% of all of the victims from gunshot wounds in the county. And that's, we've seen that trend for several years now. Victim age, this is something for me in particular, we are starting to see numbers shift somewhat in this regard. And it starts with that first column over to the left there. The slides break down victims by age. There were 28% of our shooters were between the ages of 18 and 24, with 85% of them being male. In 2020, there were less than 40 victims under the age of 18. In 2021, there were nearly 50 victims under the age of 18. So it's still early on, but the younger number, the two bars to the far left there, are the ones that we're seeing consistent growth in. So that's one to keep an eye out for that. So, and I'll pause there if there are any questions before I get to the Kent numbers. No? Okay. Kent shooting numbers for 2021, I wanted to add this in as well. So that's our 2020 versus 2021. The breakdown on the type there, the homicide, I want to make this clear. These are firearms death related to homicides, not total homicide numbers. I want to make that clear because you'll see that there's not an 8 in 2020, there's a 4. So then the categories are homicides, people, injury are people that were shot but survived, and property damage, we know that there was a shooting because a building window got broken, et cetera. And the last one was where we have shots reported. Nothing was hit, but we found things like bullet casings or other indications that we really did have a shooting, and we were just really lucky, which happens a lot, as you can see on the up there. All of the categories are up, homicides being the most drastic increase at 64% increase. Others were, 29 on down. Total for the year is 35% increase, and you'll see those numbers are very consistent. I happened to peek over at Pierce County, looked at Tacoma, Pierce County area, Puyallup. I looked up in the Snow County and their numbers, and give or take 5 or so percentage points, everybody's seeing the same similar numbers. And I bet if we looked even further across the country, you'd see a consistent pattern there. So it is a what I will put in the category of more of a societal issue than a Kent specific issue. But obviously we got to do what we can here, right? Questions on our Kent numbers? Okay. If there are later, that's fine.
Quick question, Chief. Was there an increase in 2019 to 2020? I don't remember.
There was, and I can get that to you. I can send you the last 5 years if you want. I'll email it to you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. And last, seems like an awkward segue, but I do want to promote our upcoming Community Academy that's starting in April 15th to June 14th. Look for registration on our police website. I go to the beginning and ending of every academy, so the welcome and the graduation and the continued and enormous amount of appreciation and understanding that comes out of that is incredible. I mean, people just really get a lot out of the class. It is a big commitment. It's every Wednesday night for a couple hours, but you get a behind-the-scenes looks. You have our experts come and talk to you. I think the best part is they get to meet our subject matter experts and get to see them as real people. And ultimately, this engagement and education process goes two ways. Both our officers receiving that, I receive that, as well as they receive information in the department. And I really think the path forward for improvement and growth as we look at all these things, social justice, police reform, I think it really starts by gaining understanding. Mutual understanding leads to empathy, leads to progress forward. So great opportunity. If you can make the time, it's a great investment. We'd like to see you there. And Madam Mayor, that completes my report.
All right, thank you, Chief. Any follow-up questions for the Chief? All right, I am not seeing any, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we will move on in the agenda. Item number 5 is reports. Opportunity for everyone up here at the on the dais to report out on the work that's being done outside of council and committee meetings. So making sure that Kent is being represented at the regional level in all conversations. I have a couple of updates on things that have happened in the last few weeks. Transportation Policy Board met last week, and we talked about the implementation strategies around the Regional Transportation Plan. Please check out our social media in the upcoming days. That plan is currently open for public comment, and there's a link to public comment on that. It's really important that we weigh in as a community on things that are important to us as we look at our 6-year transportation plan for the region. We also talked about the work plan for Transportation Policy Board, and it includes things like implementation of Vision 2050, the climate portion as it relates to transportation, conversation and work around freight mobility. That's something that's very important here for us in the city of Kent, given our industrial valley. Skateboard, the South County Area Transportation Board met this morning, and we had a report out on the Regional Transportation Plan to the South County cities, as well as a presentation from King County on micro-mobility. So first and last mile, things like Pingo for Transit, something that Kent is working on, and how we all play a part in that, those opportunities for folks getting to transit. I had the opportunity to weigh in. I'm a member of our watershed inventory group, RIA 9, and was able to provide some comment at that meeting last week around our Downey Farmstead project. We're going to be advertising final phase of that in March. We've been working on that for over 15 years. So it's really exciting to see that final phase moving along, and it was a good chance to be able to thank our partners, King County Flood Control District, Surfboard, the Salmon Recovery Board. That's one of my favorite acronyms that we've got, skateboard and surfboard, that we participate, that help fund things here in the city of Kent. So just a thank you to all of the groups that have supported that project, and looking forward to the going out for bid on that final phase. Finally, I want to say thank you to Lowe's Home Improvement up on Pack Highway, as well as our neighborhood response team. A couple of weeks ago, Lowe's provided us with paint and a large group of volunteers in the pouring down rain to go out and paint out graffiti around the city of Kent. So we broke up into a couple of teams. East Hill, West Hill ended up in the valley, and like I said, Lowe's is a great partner. Our officers were out there painting out graffiti, as well as our community education unit. It was a fun morning for sure, but kind of sad to see the amount of graffiti that we've got, but very encouraging that we've got great volunteers in a police department willing to roll up their sleeves and do that work. So with that, I'm going to look to my right for our Chief Administrative Officer's report.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. A few things for you tonight. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who attended the City Council's 2022 retreat. We had good discussions around the budget, climate issues, and state legislation around policing and housing, among other things. Next up is going to be an executive leadership team retreat where we look to put the council's direction into action. Also wanted to mention we're getting very close to launching our first ever publicly facing performance dashboard. It will feature around 30 measures that track the city's progress toward the 5 council adopted goals. And we'll give you a preview of that at your workshop on April 19th. Then our race and equity team continues to be busy. The team held its second meeting with the community stakeholder group that's helping design action items for the Race and Equity Strategic Plan. The area of focus this month was communications. And then in addition to that community stakeholder group, we have an interdepartmental core team that met last week to work on communications as well. And the next update to the council will be at the March 1st Operations and Public Safety Committee meeting. The rest of my report is written and in your packet, and there is no executive session this evening. So, thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Council President Boyce, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. At 4 o'clock, we had our operation meeting. We had a head of HR came to us and really update the council on just the update on the city hiring. And great presentation. They really took the data and put it in different formats so we could see for diversity, the makeup, and so on. At the end of the day, I think HR as well as the city is looking forward to trying to increase diversity within the hiring process, and I think the team is off to a good start in trying to do things to try to increase diversity. Then we had our workshop, at 5 o'clock, and we got a presentation from Terry Jugman and Terry and Curry on the open park space plan update. Great presentation, a lot of input, stakeholder engagement in that whole process. One they talked about is telling the story. We talk about the information of collecting the data, stakeholder interview, and making sure the data they collect is statistically valid, which they did prove to be. Look at data crunching, the reporting, and then the engagement to confirm the finding within the public. They also did an inventory analysis on all of our parks, right? So looking at the previous value and the potential value of the parks, and there was an up and down on just what's the value of the park and so on for improving it and increasing it. So a lot of good data around that. I think the one thing that I really appreciate about it is just really how they went out and tried to collect the data for engagement. So they had like 65,000 postcards, which is really good. The engagement the park website. They did signs in park, pop-up events, mayor newsletter, recreation newsletter, reader board, Facebook, and social media. So we had a 45-minute presentation, so I did ask them to put this on the park website. So I would encourage all the listeners out there, if you want more information, please go out to the website. And then the next step would be for them to come back to the council in March, and then they'll have a draft report in April. Then they'll confirm with the public, and then we'll have another council workshop sometime in the June timeframe. So a lot of good work from the Parks Department and really doing analysis on the parks and open space in the city of Kent. Then our next presentation was the Greater Kent Historic Society. I was going to ask the audience how many people have been there and know where it's at, but the audience is pretty low tonight. But we had a great presentation also from Julie and the team. And I thought it was kind of neat when they talk about just what's the purpose really, and I wrote this down. They said, really is the primary repository for material, cultural of the city and custodian and interpreting of the historical record. Really, I mean, because I think the Kent Historical Society, like any historical society, really kind of tell the history of the city. And I thought they did a pretty good job of talking about what they're trying to do. They're trying to update their strategic plan, looking at the budget. They did hire a consultant to help with that plan. And lots of hours and meetings were put together to try to bring this data home. I do want to read just quickly their mission statement, which I thought was well written. The Greater Kent Historic Society operates the Kent Museum and inspires the community to explore and discover their history. We educate and preserve diverse family and kinfolk storyline for the future generation. So I would encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to go and visit the Kent Historic Society, please take a moment and do so. There's a lot of history there that I'm sure you will enjoy yourself as well. And I'm going to ask my council member to my left, Councilmember Michaud, do you have a report out, please?
Yes, thank you, Council President. I am the chair of the Parks and Human Services Committee, and at our last meeting, we accepted some fee in lieu funds for parks from housing developers, and we also reallocated some fee in lieu funds. Those funds expire, and so in order to make sure that we use them, we just move them to a different park. That doesn't mean that the park they were originally allocated to is not going to be updated or funded. We just needed to move that money around just so we could use it. And then we also approved a contract to provide playground equipment, park amenities, and related products and services. This is similar to some contracts that we've seen with the police department, and that's also on our consent calendar tonight. And then lastly, we got an update on human services funding, and that's going to come to full council sometime in the near future, so I won't go over all that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Core?
Thank you, Council President. I serve on several committees, but the only one we met so far was the K4C. We meet every Friday. And we talked about the transportation package, the $16 billion transportation package announced last week. If it moves out of Senate this week, then it moves to the House and is expected to pass. The other thing we talked about, well, today was the cutoff for several bills, and the missing middle basically was dead. But they're thinking that some of the pieces from that bill will be added to the ADU bills and other bills. So it's something to for cities to keep an eye on. The other thing we talked was the Clean Buildings King County video series is available on the King County's website about CPACER and Clean Buildings Standard Incentive Program. And I was actually one of the individuals featured talking here in Kent downtown area about the CPACER program. So if anyone's interested, they are encouraged to go check it out. And that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Core. Councilman Larmer?
Thank you. I serve on the King County Aging and Disabilities Advisory Council, and we met last week. We had a presentation from endoflifewa.org, so End of Life Washington. This is actually a really great organization that has helped streamline the paperwork involved with advanced directives, living wills. They talked about how the paperwork can at times be overwhelming, but they've sort of packaged it together to help it make a little bit more sense. And they've got really great advocates that you can contact and work with to find out your choices in these matters. And then I also serve on the King County Affordable Housing Committee. We also met last week, and we approved our work plan for 2022, and one of our top priorities is going to be the countywide planning policies. The task of measuring and monitoring growth of affordable units in each jurisdiction has been passed down from the Growth Management Planning Council to Affordable Housing Committee to monitor that. We do have a task board or a dashboard that we built last year, and we'll be taking a look at improvements to that to help with that. And now that we have kind of a more formal task of being the measurement, board to measure and monitor these things and make those recommendations. So we'll be looking at dashboard improvements. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lauer. Councilman Troutner?
Thank you, Council President Boyce. I am chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee along with Councilmember Michaud and Councilmember Larmer. And yesterday at our meeting, we approved the countywide planning policy amendments and urban growth capacity report. The countywide planning policies, or the CPPs, create a shared and consistent framework for growth management planning for all jurisdictions in King County. This policy was last updated in 2012. So with all of the changes and growth coming in our community, it's really important that we have these new documents. As a part of the CPP update, new growth targets are recommended for 2024 through 2044 planning period. These growth targets are policy statements about the amount of housing and jobs each jurisdiction will plan for in the 2024 comprehensive plan update. So this is an opportunity for cities to use these planning guidelines, working together with shared data to make sure we're all meeting the growth targets and providing that housing option for people in our community. We also had an update on the Bridges community annexation. And as you know, we started talking about this back in 2018. The Bridges community is 155 acres, kind of a little island of Kent in the middle of Auburn. They have 386 homes and 55 acres of open space. And hopefully in the coming months, we'll have some more information to come back to council to talk about what's happening with that process. We also talked a little bit about the City of Kent Memorandum of Understanding with Avenue 55, and that will be coming up a little bit later in our agenda. And then we also heard a little bit of information about the Commercial Permit Assistance Pilot Project. A lot of information was learned from that on how we can help our businesses through the permitting process, but also helping them to understand things that are happening within their business, and how to help them be successful. So more information will come in the future on that, but those meetings are also available online if you're interested in hearing more about them. I sit on the Regional Transit Committee. We will meet tomorrow, but on Monday, February 7th, I met with General Manager Terry White, gave us an opportunity to talk a little bit about what's happening in the city of Kent. As you know, we have Rapid Right Eye coming out very soon. This will convert Route 160 into that Rapid Right Eye. We've seen strong ridership, and they've added some help along those routes. So this will work very well when we convert that route to the Rapid Right Eye. Also, some of you may have noticed that Route 162 stopped during the snowstorm when we had the weather issue a month back. East Hill, this is for commuters that are going East Hill to downtown Kent. That line should be up and running again soon. We have seen strong ridership continue in Kent throughout the pandemic, so that's been very helpful as far as with Metro making decisions on what routes they're going to suspend or adjust during that time period. So we have been very lucky to see some of those routes continue. In the second and third quarter, we should see some route increases and changes in the east to west connection, especially as we have light rail coming in to the West Hill. And then I know Councilmember Larmer, you've been very concerned about Route 157 and the access into the Panther Lake area. And I know that is a concern for Metro as well. But as the mayor mentioned, we have Pingo for Transit, which is a great opportunity for riders to kind of use that as a, if you think of getting on your app, selecting where you want to be picked up and delivered to, and using your Orca card to help. So kind of an Uber in a way of how to use that transportation. And the city of Kent is going to be putting out some advertising on how to use that system, and you'll see some of us out there riding around on Pingo to show you how easy it is to use coming in the future. And then lastly, I sit on the Regional Fire Authority with Council President Boyce and Councilmember Thomas. We are looking at petitions and considering adjustments for the benefit charge. We did that at our meeting on February 2nd. We will also do that at our meeting tomorrow. But I know I've talked about it before, and I just want to continue to praise the RFA for their work they've done during the pandemic to provide support and services to our residents through, first of all, COVID testing and then vaccines. They've been a great partner with the city of Kent. The information that was given to us at the last meeting, 408,000 plus people have been tested for COVID. Over 89,000 people have been vaccinated, and also through mobile vaccines, over 5,000 people have been serviced. So again, want to thank the RFA for their partnership and the work they've done to keep our community safe and healthy. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Council President. I am liaison to the Kent Arts Commission, so that one, just a couple of quick notes that the new commissioners were welcome last meeting, and there is one of our murals is going to be moved, so looking for a new location for one of the murals. Remember that the Centennial Gallery is open, and that Kent Creates, the current contest, runs through the end of March. And the traffic signal box program is back underway for this current year. So you've seen the traffic signal boxes around, so 8 more are coming. Let's see, Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Committee reported on that last time. We don't have a meeting until later this month, so that one you'll hear about next time. Public Works Committee, which I serve on with both Councilmembers Core and Larimer. We had a lot of talk about waters, keeping it in where it belongs, so flood protection, keeping it clean, sewers and our sewer and storm treatment. And we also had to talk about roads and updates on grants, preservation grants, PSRC grants, and to make sure that we have asphalt overlays to keep our roads smooth. So those were conversations. One of the big standouts for me, though, was, or two of them, one of the agenda items tonight is on the storm and surface water utility ordinance. There were some changes in there, some due to keep up with the current laws. And then the other ones were just housekeeping, making sure to combine things and clean up things because was time to do that. And so that is on the agenda, along with, you'll see a number of other items from us. But one of the other standouts was a presentation on our pumps at the sewer stations. And, you know, I've heard over the years, like, nothing but rain down the drain, or fogs, the fats, oils, greases, and I forget what the S is. But anyway, keeping those, actually, I think it's just fats, oils, and greases, and it's plural. But making sure that those don't go down the drain. So if you're at home, wipes do not go down the drain. They had pictures of some of the blades and all that are completely clogged, which of course takes money and time to go out and clean up and repair. Even though the wipes may say they are flushable, they are not truly flushable. They may go through your pipe or down your toilet. You don't see them, but it's clogging up the system as it goes out. So do not flush wipes. Nothing but toilet paper down your toilet, and if it comes from your body or it's toilet paper, that's fine. Nothing else, no paper towels or anything else. So I believe, the last one, King Conservation District. Congratulations to Supervisor Kirsten Haugen. The election is over. Hopefully that election will be on the regular ballot next time around. Bet many people watching didn't even know that there was an election for King Conservation District because it wasn't on the printed ballot that you get in for the November elections. And you had to either go online or you had to go online to the election site, or you had to fill out your ballot at kingcd.org. And so if people don't know about it, they're not going to be able to vote. So access would be greatly enhanced by having that on the regular ballot, and we're working with legislators to get that done. That is it.
Thank you, Councilmember Fincher. Madam Mayor, that ends our report.
All right. Thank you, Council President. As you can hear, your city council is busy at work representing our city around the region. Next item on our agenda is public hearing. We do not have one this evening. Item number 7 is public comment. Kim, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We do not.
All right. That moves us right down to item number 8, the consent calendar, which is a compilation of items that council has reviewed and discussed at the committee level, moved out of committee without any controversy. We've got items A through L. With that, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar, item A through L.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 9A, we have under other business, and it's the MOU between the City of Kent and Avenue 55 for the Naden Avenue assemblage. And providing our report this evening is Derek Matheson.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. The council approved a memorandum of understanding with a group called Avenue 55 for development of the Naden property last February. That MOU expires next Tuesday. However, Avenue 55 is not scheduled to present its proposal to the City Council until March 15th. So staff recommends the council extend the MOU by 1 month to March 22nd. Our department directors normally sign time extensions to contracts without council approval. However, because this is a real estate matter, it's coming before you for action this evening.
All right. Any questions?
One question, please.
Council President.
So March 22nd, that's enough time? We feel pretty good about standing and doing that time frame, sir?
Yes, we do. We'll brief the Economic and Community Development Committee on March 14th, and then Avenue 55 will be here under other business on March 15th, at which point we'll seek council direction to work on a development agreement and purchase and sale agreement for future council approval.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, I'm seeing none, so a motion would be in order.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize the mayor to sign an extension with Avenue 55 LLC to March 22nd, 2022, to satisfy the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding regarding the Naden Avenue assemblage that was signed by Avenue 55 and the city on February 22nd, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is a bid, and we've got the Chestnut Ridge park renovation bid. Joining us is Terry Youngman. I will tell you, Terry, I was looking around going, wonder where we're going to be, and you popped in at the exact right moment.
Yeah, Matt
Nice
Dash
timing.
down from the office, yep. Hi, everybody, Mayor, Council President, Council members, thanks for having me back. I'll make this one much shorter than earlier today. But yeah, I'm here to represent the item for the Chestnut Ridge bid award. This was a project that we put out to bid early in February. The parent low bidder is Key Peninsula Construction LLC. We do find them to be a responsive bidder. The amount of the bid was $464,622, which includes Washington State sales tax. And we move to recommend this item for approval. This did come in under the engineer's estimate. We were estimating this to be about a $500,000 project, so I think we got a good bid and a good responsive bidder for this item. Happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, any questions for Terry? Councilmember Michaud?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to let everyone know that they can go to engagekentparks.com to look at this playground structure. It looks pretty cool.
All right. With that, I'm not seeing any other hands raised, so is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move to award the Chestnut Ridge Park project bid to Key Peninsula Construction LLC in the amount of $464,622, including Washington State sales tax, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and parks director.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Terry. That brings us down to item number 11, executive session. We do not have one this evening. Item number 12 is adjournment. Very swift meeting this evening. Want to tell everyone, have a great week. Hopefully we get some decent weather and you can get out and enjoy some of the parks that we heard presentations on this evening over the weekend, or one of the great community events that we've got coming up. With that, we are adjourned.